To recognize our next member, the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, for 5 minutes. You're on, ma'am. Phone.
Sorry, it's been a while. Thank you so much, Chairwoman. I really sincerely appreciate the opportunity to bring my residents, my district into the room, into Congress. This opportunity to try to prioritize some of the important work I think the Water Resources Development Act can do for frontline communities like mine is critical. The communities I represent, Chairwoman, in Southeast Michigan, communities like Detroit, Romulus, Inkster, and Dearborn Heights, they are frontline communities of this climate crisis. Last summer, these communities faced unprecedented flooding. We didn't merely experience 100-year rainfalls, we experienced a 1,000-year rainfall. Our communities didn't even have the projections for these events at all. Some homes flooded repeatedly, some even up to 4 times within 2 months. Raw sewage flowed through the streets in my communities. The flood maps and projections within our communities that we rely on are inaccurate and don't account for our rapidly warming climate, and they're simply out of date. And the water infrastructure in these communities is woefully inadequate, as you know. Now extreme weather events are here, and many just don't want to do anything about it. I refuse to accept this as an option, Chairwoman. As the weather events increase with frequency, communities need the tools to be prepared. This year's WRDA, an opportunity for our neighbors to better understand the threats that we face due to climate change, and it can equip us with a resilient water infrastructure. First, I encourage the committee to please offer support for Detroit Division of the Army Corps of Engineers and their planning and identifying flood resilience for communities like those around Ecorse Creek. And Ecorse Creek, it impacts 9 communities in Wayne County, Michigan, which is the largest populated county in the state. I also encourage the Army Corps to conduct a feasibility study for flood risk management in southeastern Michigan. This is essential, Chairwoman. Third, I encourage the committee to broaden environmental assistance for Michigan by committing $35 million for projects like wastewater treatment, water supply, environmental restoration, and surface water resource protection. I'm so incredibly grateful to be joined by my good friend and neighbor, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, in these 3 asks. Many of our communities are intertwined and connected. Finally, while I applaud the committee for their work on the 2020 bill, I encourage the committee to truly incorporate the environmental justice components into drafting of the 2022 bill. The most daunting water infrastructure challenges our nations face are born directly to many of the nation's most vulnerable communities, neighborhoods like the one I grew up in, where I don't want the kids in that community, again, that same neighborhood, to think that it's not normal to have clean water come through their faucet. That means doing even more, Chairwoman, to ensure that the Army Corps of Engineers has the tools and capacity to advance communities and support solutions in these, as they're again experiencing these impacts. We should also increase capacity and expertise within the Army Corps and give the public more meaningful opportunities to weigh in on the projects that affect their communities. We should continue increasing opportunities for assistance by building on and expanding the pilot program for economically disadvantaged communities. Please extend that pilot program, very essential. Finally, we must maximize toxic remediation and ecological restoration, navigation and flood resilience projects. We must support minority-owned businesses, and we must continue developing and advancing, again, environmental justice innovation. I thank Congressman Stephen Cohen for joining me in this request as well, and for just a great ally in fighting for environmental justice. I appreciate the opportunity, Chairwoman, and all our committee members to share the priorities before this committee and respectively request their inclusion in the 2022 Water Resources Development Act. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Mr. Tlaib. Very well put. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to recognize the next member, gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Allen, for 5 minutes.